For over 20 years at this point, we have seen the USA men struggle on the 4x1, literally making mistakes year after year after year. They have not won a single medal at the Olympic Games since Athens 2004, and they have not won a gold medal since Sydney 2000. And that doesn't include all the mistakes that they've been making at the World Championships in between those Olympic Games. Yes, they do have some silvers, they have won golds, but they have been consistently making mistakes year after year after year. But on the flip side, the women's 4x1 has displayed consistency year after year, literally the complete opposite of the men's teams. The USA women have won 3 out of the last 4 possible gold medals at the Olympic Games, 2012, 2016, and 2024. On top of that, they won Olympic silver in 2021, and they have been on every single World Championship podium, again, dating back to 2011 to most recently in 2023, multiple times having won a gold medal. Well, what's the secret that the women have been able to tap into that the men simply can't get right? In my opinion, we're talking about Mechelle Freeman. She has arguably been the secret to the US women's success on the relays over the past decade or so, having been the assistant relays coach in 2015 and then promoted to head women's relay coach in 2022.
I've been the assistant relays coach for USA Track and Field since 2015. I became the head women's relays coach in 2022. So Oregon 2022 was my first year leading the women's as the head relays coach.
And once she became coach in 2022, Freeman literally went undefeated, having won 3 consecutive gold medals in the 4x1, 2022, 2023, and 2024. And her first year, again, 2022 in Eugene, that was when the United States actually just edged out Jamaica, which had an all-star team of Sharika Jackson, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, Elaine Thompson-Herah, and Kemba Nelson. Now, Freeman posted on Twitter and Instagram that she is no longer the women's relay coach. She said, quote, "My time as a USATF head women's relay coach has come to an end. Thank you to my family and to those who believed in me. Thank you, Lord, for choosing me to show the world how to win against it all. To the athletes, keep making history, and much love." So as you can tell, based on the success that the US women have seen on the 4x1 over the past 10 plus years, Mechelle Freeman no longer being the head coach is a massive, massive blow and is going to have some serious ripple effects when talking about the future of the relay in the United States. Now, in her message, she clearly didn't give any reason as to why she's no longer the head coach, whether she's leaving, whether she was let go. We don't know any of that information, but just a little bit of context. USATF has actually been struggling just a little bit financially over the past year or so, and there have actually been a few notable people who have been let go by USATF, and there's also some others who have chosen to leave voluntarily. Now, I want to be clear, Mechelle has not communicated any information as to why she actually is no longer the coach, right? She may have chosen to leave on her own accord. She may have been let go. There may have been a ton of other reasons, but just want to provide that little bit of context. The other thing is we don't have any word on the head men's relay coach, which is Mark Marsh. He has been coaching the men's relay team for the past couple years, but there's no word from him. So the question is, what does this mean for the United States relays going forward into the future now that the head women's relay coach, who has seen some of the most successful performances at the World Championships and the Olympic Games for a 4x1, now that she's gone, what are we going to see for the future of USA relays? Now, of course, on the surface, you're going to say that this is a clear problem, and I definitely agree as well. Again, the success that Mechelle Freeman has been able to instill on the relay has really transformed how the women have been able to work together and led to all the successful gold medals, silver medals, even bronze medals, just making sure that they're always on the podium. That has been a culmination of what Mechelle Freeman has been able to do. So one of the big things is practice. We all know that athletes coming together for a successful relay at the World Championships or Olympic Games, that can only happen if they're actually practicing. And without Mechelle Freeman, this actually is taking a bigger hit than you think. One of the things that Mechelle Freeman did kind of orchestrate was the spring relay program for USATF, where she was able to bring together some of the top athletes from the United States during the springtime, whether that's at Texas relays or other relay meets that again happen in the springtime. She was able to bring athletes together to ensure that they not only get practice behind the scenes, but they also get a chance to compete on a relay in high pressure competition.
Our spring domestic relay program is really important for us to have those touch points with the athletes early in the season. The USA program, of course, we have depth in the sprints, so the turnover rate in our relays is higher than other countries. So we want to make sure that we can increase that amount of time to teach our process, make sure they have touch points at each of the legs, and then by the time is for selection in the summer, we have a great idea of how they're performing individual races, but also on relay legs.
One perfect example is 2023 at the Texas Relays. You literally had basically every top women's sprinter in the United States all into Austin, Texas for the relays, competing in a relay, whether it's Sha'Carri Richardson, an Aaliyah Hobbs, an Abby Steiner, even some of the hurdlers like a Kenny Harrison. All these athletes were on the track competing in various combinations of 4x1s because Mechelle Lewis Freeman wanted to make sure that they got some practice. She was able to identify how athletes worked on different legs, and then she would take that data and be able to apply it going into the future, leading up to a World Championships that year, or even for an Olympic Games or whatever major championships will be coming up. That may happen into the future, but that is something that Mechelle Lewis Freeman put into place to ensure the success that we have seen over the past couple years with the women's 4x1. Additionally, that led to more synergy when we got to the actual practices that occurred prior to a World Championships. We're talking about a relay camp in July or August, right before a World Championships or an Olympic Games. So without that structure in the spring, they're not going to have as much synergy when they're actually selected for the team and then actually practicing right before a World Championships or Olympic Games. Without Mechelle Lewis Freeman, yes, it may still occur, but it may not be in the same fashion that we've come to expect, again, over these past 3 years. On top of that, another thing is relationship building, right? Coaches and athletes, they have to be able to be in sync. They have to be able to understand each other outside of even just the technical aspects of practice. And these are things that occur all throughout the entire year. And athletes have been able to develop strong relationships with a Mechelle Lewis Freeman. One example is in Budapest 2023, when Gabby Thomas and Sha'Carri Richardson ran the third and fourth legs. That actually wasn't supposed to be the specific order that they had. But Mechelle Lewis Freeman, she had developed a significant amount of trust with Gabby, with Sha'Carri, with the entire relay team, where she was able to come in and say, hey, we need to make this little change at the last minute. You have to trust me because I know that we're going to be able to be successful. They, of course, went on to win the gold medal. They set a championship record.
It's always good to get athlete feedback. Again, you want athletes feeling confident when they step on the track that they can execute the demands of where they're placed. So it's two-way communication. An athlete tells me, I feel good at this leg, but the good thing about it, their performance can speak for itself. So I'm an objective person when it comes to that. If they feel great about a certain leg, if they're executing it great, then it should correlate.
There you go. But that's where the relationship development comes into play. If athletes and coaches don't have a good relationship, then athletes might not trust the coach and they may not listen to the instructions that are necessary to lead the team to success. Now, one other aspect is the organization of things. We know that USA teams for the relays are selected right after the US Championships, but without someone like Mechelle Lewis Freeman, who had a very keen sense for who is supposed to be on the team or who would be successful on the team based on what occurred in the spring, based on what they saw at the Olympic trials or the USA Championships, maybe that's going to be in a little bit of flux. Yes, I know prior to Freeman, which we'll talk about in a second, the USA did still have success on the women's side, but she had it down to a science, in my opinion. And that being taken away is going to significantly change how teams are selected. And that might even introduce some more politics that we definitely don't need as part of the 4x1 relay.
Olympic year, we take the top 3 in the 100 meters that are automatically selected in the relay pool. Then we have 2 discretionary choices as the head relay coaches to work with the committee and just present who we think best fits in to put out a team that can get the job done. So when I look at the discretionary selections, you look at who you have, and then you look at the areas of opportunities and to fill in those spaces to make sure you go in, because we're in a leg-based program. What I mean by that is that people are maybe good at first leg, people may be good at second leg or third leg. So if you have top 3 that have a history of doing really well on certain legs, then you want to make sure that those discretionary selections are filling in those spaces that can make sure you have a full cohesive team.
But the other kind of organizational structure is knowing when athletes are competing at the World Championships or the Olympic Games in their respective individual events. For example, we know that athletes like a Gabby Thomas or like a Noah Lyles, they're going to have conflicts because they're competing in the 200. Yes, everyone could look directly on the schedule, but knowing those things in advance and actually planning, practicing, and preparing for them to occur, that's something that's super important that, again, connects with the preparation and practice, connects with the relationship building. All these things are interconnected to lead to success for these relay teams at the Worlds and the Olympic Games. And again, Mechelle Lewis-Freeman, in my opinion, was an expert at these things occurring, which is why we've seen her have so much success. Now, I do want to know, prior to Freeman entering as the assistant relay coach in 2015 and then the head coach in 2022, the USA women were seeing a lot of success. 2011 and 2012, they got 4x1 gold, and then 2013, they got silver in the 4x1. Specifically, in 2012, that is the Olympic gold medal team that broke the world record in London. Tiana Madison, Allyson Felix, Bianca Knight, and Carmelita Jeter, that was the legendary team that still holds the world record to this day. And then once Freeman came into the fold 2015 as an assistant relays coach, that's when they just continued on with their success. And even in 2016, they won the Olympic gold once again. They were in the second fastest time of all time in the 4x1. Even in 2023, we saw them win the gold in Budapest, running the fourth fastest time of all time. So this success on the 4x1 has preceded Freeman, and I think it also will continue after Freeman. Yes, I've been noting that there's some issues because Freeman was, again, in my opinion, one of the specialists and one of the experts who's brought a lot of synergy to the 4x1 for the United States. But I do think, considering that there is a ton of talent in the USA on the women's side, between Sha'Carri Richardson, between Gabby Thomas, Melissa Jefferson, TT Terry, Tamari Davis, Aaliyah Hobbs, all these women are still competing, and they're still likely going to be on the relay regardless of who the coach is. They still have a lot of synergy. They still have a lot of camaraderie, and I think it's going to be able to carry over. Yes, there's going to be some new names entering the fold, whether that's Jason Sears or somebody else in that realm. Yes, they're probably going to be selected for the relay in the future going forward, but I still think we're going to see that consistency from USA women that occurred prior to Freeman and then also will likely occur after Freeman as well. But I don't want to diminish the fact that Mechelle Lewis-Freeman completely transformed how the relays worked and really saw some extreme success that, in my opinion, she arguably should be in the conversation as one of the GOATs in terms of relay coaches in track and field. Not only did she coach the 4x1s, but she also coached the 4x4s and the mixed relays, where she got tons of golds, both indoors and outdoors. So her presence is definitely going to be missed. But on the flip side, does this maybe open the door for other countries to take advantage of maybe the US relays being in a little bit of flux and having the opportunity to win golds once again? You're talking about countries like Jamaica, who haven't won a gold medal in the 4x1 since 2021 at the Olympic Games. Yes, you can argue that they're kind of rebuilding in a sense, where Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price is kind of at the end of her career. Elaine Thompson-Herah hasn't looked the same as she has in previous years, but they do have a plethora of young and talented athletes who are very likely going to be coming together and bringing a lot of success for Jamaica leading into the future. This could be a turning point where Jamaica realizes, hey, the USA doesn't have their top coach, their most successful 4x1 coach anymore. Maybe this is going to be our time to really step things up. And that doesn't only apply to Jamaica. You're talking about Great Britain, who has always been on the podium consistently year after year at Worlds and Olympics. You're talking about Germany, who has also been able to get on the podium multiple times over the past couple years. Countries like Nigeria, they have a very strong squad of young and talented athletes that might be able to come together for a strong presence in the 4x1. A lot of these nations, they might have their eyes seeing, hey, this might be our chance to really step things up and potentially spoil the party that the USA, at least over the past 3 years, has really been holding down. But I think the same things apply across the board, where these countries, they do need to practice, right? Where 2022, when the USA got the gold medal, in terms of foot speed, Jamaica should have blown out the United States, and they should have probably had the world record at this point, but they still need to make sure they're coming together for practice. But like I said, Jamaica, they have a lot of young talent that I think might be able to come together and really step things up when talking about the 4x1. But this is just my thoughts as it relates to Mechelle Lewis-Freeman. I've gotten a chance to speak with her a few times, especially over the past year. You know, she's been a stalwart. She's been holding things down. And like I said, I can maybe argue that she should be in the conversation as one of the GOATs in terms of relay coaches in track and field, considering the success that she's been able to hold down and put together for the 4x1 specifically over the past 3 years, 2022, 2023, and 2024, but also even going back to her time when she was an assistant relay coach in 2015, getting the women on the podium every single time. But let me know what you think about Mechelle Lewis-Freeman no longer being the head relays coach for the United States. Do you think this presents an opportunity for other countries to step things up? Or do you think the United States is going to continue with the success that they've seen even prior to Mechelle Lewis-Freeman entering the fold? Let me know what you think. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back again next time. Thanks for watching, y'all.